Welcome to episode 9 of the Deus Ex Cinema podcast. I'm your host, Matt Damon. To my right is Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
And to my left is Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
So this is movie 2 of our superhero genre rotation. And Marty, what movie did you pick?
Team America World Police. I mean, Matt Damon.
So I think that's probably where we should start, is you having to make a case for whether or not this is a superhero movie.
Well, what do superheroes do? They save people, right? And what does Team America do? They save people. Team America is a group of superheroes. They're like the Avengers.
Okay.
And apparently the superhero definition is a benevolent fictional character with superhuman powers.
And he has superhero acting powers.
Yes.
But see, they say superhuman powers, but like I don't think that's a good definition though. Because what about like Batman or Spider-Man? You know, like the new Spider-Man's where he uses like the suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's just about people going out there and fighting bad guys.
That's a really
Like
good
terrorists.
point, Matt Damon.
Thanks, Matt Damon.
You're welcome, Matt Damon.
Yes. This was a very calculated critique on the superhero genre, and not just you cracking under the pressure of forgetting to pick a movie.
Hey,
before
we don't
last
have
week's
video.
podcast.
They can't see the panic in my eyes.
All right, so I guess before we get into my talking points, then we should go around just initial impressions, spoiler free. What do you guys think of the movie? Do you have any history with it, or Trey Parker and Matt Stone in general?
Believe it or not, I've never seen this movie before.
This was your first time seeing
What?
it,
Yeah.
and you picked it.
Was
Yeah.
it everything you thought it would be?
Yeah, it pretty much lived up to the expectations.
Was this our first movie then that the person picking it hadn't seen it?
I think so.
Because every single one, the person who picked it had seen it before.
Yeah, I mean, I already knew.
Well, yeah,
I
you
knew
know
what it
it
was
was
gonna be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was fucking hilarious, honestly. I mean, yeah, it wasn't very like intricate humor, but that's Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
Yeah,
So
that's their style. Sureyya, what was your impression? Had you seen it before?
I did. I saw it probably a year after it came out. Around the time it came out.
Well, like-
Somewhere around there.
So when you were like 13,
I was like
it was like 2005.
2005, so I was like
2004, October 15th.
Okay.
So 2001 I was
12.
in second grade.
We were born at the
So-
same time. We were 12.
But I feel like I was like 5th grade.
Oh, well,
5th, 6th grade.
might have been later, but whatever.
Yeah.
I did not remember much of it except for America! Fuck yeah! And then I knew that it was making fun of America and another certain nation peoples.
Like all of them.
Durka.
Like North Korea, Asia.
What's that comment that Justin made?
Oh, no, it was Isaiah made
Oh.
it to Justin, where he said that all Asian people are pretty much Chinese. And he was, in Isaiah's defense, he was like 9 or 10 at the time, maybe.
Oh, man.
And he had been taught this in school in Horicon, Wisconsin, because it's a white trash
Right.
settlement, pretty much. And yeah, we were playing Minecraft. And Isaiah was over at my place, and we were doing split screen. And we were playing with Justin, our Thai friend, half Thai. And Isaiah was talking to Justin. He said something about like, "Oh, you're Thai," or no, he was like, "Oh, so you're Chinese?" It just was like, "No, I'm Thai," and he's like, "Well, all Asians are pretty much Chinese." He was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Well, my teacher told me that the first Asian country was China, and then the Asians like just expanded outward from there and founded the other countries. So all Asian people really came from China." I have never heard Justin be angrier in my entire life. He was so fucking livid.
Oh, man. I could still see Isaiah making that comment though.
Oh yeah.
Because it's funny.
Well, I mean, there was an episode, I think it was the Battle Block one, where he's like, don't they speak Mexican?
That was Ben-Hur.
That was our first ever video.
Our first video recording, he said something about speaking Mexican. To be fair, though, also in his defense, he immediately afterwards laughed and said, "What the fuck am I talking about? Speak Spanish." But he did still initially say, "Speak Mexican." Anyways, getting back to the podcast. Yeah, I'd seen this. I think this was probably my third or fourth time seeing it, so I knew what to expect. I remember when I first saw it, I was maybe 12 or 13, so I saw it a couple years after it came out. I just loved it. It's so grotesque.
I don't know how your dad would let you see this.
He didn't. My mom did. My dad probably still wouldn't want me to see this. I was a little worried that it wasn't going to hold up as well.
But it surprisingly did.
It did. It held up really well, even though it's puppets.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it was still really well made for being puppets. And I mean, you could tell that it was kind of shitty. But it was like intentional. So
you know what, Marty? That was a masterful segue to my first talking point I have jotted down, which was the animation. Because I thought it was interesting how this sort of followed the South Park style of being like a crappy style, but pulled off really well.
Right. You know, it's enough where you realize that, I mean, it kind of looks like garbage. You can see all the wires, which is the point.
Yeah.
You know, some of the shots where, like, the puppets wouldn't even be on screen all the way. But, you know, it was still, like, 100% watchable. It's not like it detracted from the movie at all.
I like how they threw in, like, some human elements in there, too. Like, the part where he's proposing to the chick,
the
and
human
it's just a real hand.
The Kim Jong-il statue that's just a dude painted sober.
He's just blinking and, like, kind of
slightly moving the entire time.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, there was that. There was another part, too, that had, like, where they put, like, a human hand in front of the camera.
That's the thing. It looks like they didn't try, but the thing is they obviously tried to not try. You know?
Yeah. Well, especially because there's this really weird defining line, I think, between something like this, where it's funny because it's shitty puppet animation, and they do the funny walks and everything. But like at the same time, this is still good enough that it was shown in theaters.
Yeah.
Like it's still shot competently. And it looks professional, rather than like if the three of us got some marionettes and made a shitty little video and threw it on YouTube.
I mean, especially the fucking facial animations, like the puppets were really good.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like they just had like, you know, the open and closed mouth and that's it.
I really like the special effects where they blow up like the Sphinx and the pyramid, and it's like actual falling apart brick and like stone kind of deal.
Yeah, well, and just all the sets in general were really, really well made. Like especially like the opening where they're in France and they go to that like really far off wide shot and there's just all the fucking buildings and stuff.
You know what it reminds me of? Fucking the Lego Movie.
Yeah.
Well, it's in the same vein where it's like the Lego Movie, by the end of it, you kind of forget you're watching a bunch of Legos.
Yeah.
And the same with this. I mean, by the end, you're not even really paying attention to the fact that they're puppets. That's just how it is.
Yeah. It's just like the world of it. Was there any like specific animation moments that stood out to you guys? I know one for me was when when Gary Johnston's really depressed and he's like vomiting.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Keeps going. There's such a good like shaking of his body. Right? It just looks so real.
So violent.
It's just that hose of puke. He's just like
That was me last night.
There's just like the spurts of puke flying out towards the end.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, they managed to capture a lot of emotion with the faces and the movements and stuff, which is, I hate to say it because it was garbage, but it was at the same time it was really well done. Like, you could actually see when he was puking, you could see the pain in his eyes.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, Happy New Year's, everyone.
Oh yeah, I guess
that.
Happy New Year's.
Be sure to check out our Instagram page for wacky new memes. Wow. Or don't. I don't know.
I can put a link in the description. Were there any other moments of like animation though that stood out to you guys?
How about that sex scene?
There is the sex scene.
That probably was the most fun they had shooting the entire thing. They're like, let's just come up with every possible sex position that we can make these puppets do, and let's do it.
Well, when I was looking into this movie to prep for this, I found that apparently they had to submit it to the MPAA 7 or 9 times because the sex scene kept getting rejected. So they were getting NC-17 ratings because they only had to cut a minute out. But they just kept slightly shaving the minute down. And apparently the minute depicted them pissing and shitting on each other in the sex scene.
Oh my
And
God.
that's what they had to cut.
Well, that's the thing. Like, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, how they operate is they typically push the boundaries as far as possible.
Yeah.
And then rein it in to the point where they can get it out there.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they did with the South Park movie. That's what the entire movie's about, is how ridiculous the rating system is.
Exactly.
I mean, even in this movie, you have, like, towards the end when they're killing all the stars. It's so fucking gory.
Oh, yeah. Like, the one hits and his head got, like, just fucking, like, peeled back and, like...
split in half. Getting kicked. It's just ridiculous that that's okay. But seeing a puppet piss on another puppet, that's too much.
Yeah.
That's way too far.
Man.
So, you gonna say something?
I was gonna say, I mean, the other big thing is, like, they managed to capture a lot of emotion with totally, like, static facial features.
Yeah.
You know? Like, because they were... the likeness to humans was, like, uncanny.
Yeah,
To the
really
point
was.
where it was kind of weird. It was kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I could not help but think of Chris Pine every single time I saw Kerry Johnston.
Yeah.
Was that supposed to be Chris Pine?
No.
It was just a random...
I think it was just meant to be, like, generic-looking action star puppet. And that just looks exactly like Chris Pine.
Was Chris Pine even big back then?
I don't think he was. I don't think he was back in 2004.
What the fuck, Aaron?
Yeah, I can look it up real quick. But yeah, I mean, even like the puppets based off of real people, like the Samuel L. Jackson one looked good. Obviously, there's the joke with the Matt Damon one. Of him only saying his own name because it looked mentally
retarded.
deficient. Yeah, it does not look like Chris Pine was a really big thing back in 2004.
Oof.
It looks like he started around 2005, 2006. But nothing too big. 'Cause I don't think he was really huge until
There was a movie...
the Star Trek
No.
reboot.
No, he was pretty... He had some before Star Trek.
I mean, he had ones, but I feel like that was where he kind of blew up, was
I don't
being
know.
in Star
There
Trek
was one he was
and
in
Into the Woods.
with Hilary Duff.
Okay, well...
And Hilary Duff was
yeah, I don't
very
think
big.
that's-
Yeah, but, like, if it's in a Hilary Duff movie, does anyone care about anyone that's not Hilary Duff?
He was the hot love interest, so all the chicks would, yes.
I would debate that, but that's all right. So the next thing I wanted to go into was this movie's satirization of action films. Because I think really, it's very clear to see this movie's making fun of two big things, like Bush-era U.S. foreign policies, which we won't get into because no politics on the podcast.
Well, and I mean, honestly, it's Team America. Everyone knows what they're trying to put.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. With a song like America, fuck yeah. The title called World Police. But then it's also clearly trying to satirize action movies, like the James Bond, Mission Impossible kind of brand.
Well, you know, and like just the scene when or the scenes when he's going to all the monuments and stuff like that. You know, it has that same like up and down arc of like, I can't, but I will.
Yeah.
But I can't. But now, you know, now I believe in it. Oh, but I can't. You know, the whole typical like overcoming self-doubt and you can be awesome and kick ass.
I have a question.
Yes.
You've brought this up in multiple previous episodes of this now.
Yes.
Your post 9/11 era?
Post 9/11 world.
Yeah. Well, explain that again.
So typically, and obviously this isn't blanket for every single bit of culture, but typically after 9/11, there was, and there still is, a very big turn in film towards more cynical narratives.
Okay.
Because, like, before 2001, like back in the 90s, like, just think of any big 90s movie. I can't really think of one.
But I mean, honestly, even just think about like action movies, since we're on the topic.
You
know, it's all about like, just this one awesome, flawless, badass guy, that's overcoming things and he's always successful.
Yeah. Or like a great example would be Infinity War, right?
Okay.
So like if you look at, I mean, even like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. I mean, those came out post 9/11, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. But they were made right before it. Because they had the Twin Towers in the poster originally, and they had to take them out. You have a very clear bad guy in the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Just inherently evil, black and white. Spider-Man needs to beat him up.
Okay.
And you have a very familiar origin story arc with Spider-Man. And you take something like Infinity War, where Thanos is clearly the bad guy, but there's sort of an ambiguity to him. Where like you can kind of see what he's saying.
Yeah.
When he's like, okay, maybe there are too many humans. We are kind of fucking stuff up.
Okay.
And so it's that sort of like moral ambiguity, cynicism to everything, rather than being very cut and dry, idealistic sort of plots.
Because I mean, it's post 9/11. I mean, people even like in the real world, even just trying to define who's our enemy.
Mm-hmm.
We really don't have a clear enemy, and everyone's trying to push for something.
Yeah.
Even if it's contradicting ideas. When like back in previous wars and stuff, it was like the 90s, Saddam Hussein was a bad guy, we're gonna go get him.
Okay.
Or even like World War II. Mm-hmm. Like clearly the Nazis are bad people, or the Cold War, like clearly we're fighting communism and that's what it's all about. But now it's all up in the air.
Would this movie fit in your post 9/11 world then?
This movie is very
post 9/11.
Yeah. That's its whole deal.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point of it is that it's a
doesn't...
critique of how America reacted to 9/11 and tried to. That's why it's called world police. And I know we said we weren't going to get into politics.
but I mean, that's what the movie is, though. I mean, it's not even, I think, talking about post 9/11 stuff. I mean, it almost started with like the 90s and stuff, where how like the United States tried to be involved in every conflict in the world to try and help one side or another, to achieve our goals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go back to the satirization of action movies. After that tangent. One of the big things I took away from it, though, was the real like breakneck pacing of it.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think really helped, because I think this movie's barely an hour and a half.
It's 1 hour 37 minutes.
Yeah, and probably 6 minutes of that is credits.
Yeah.
So I thought that helped it a lot, was it being very quick and super fast. And it sort of just races and hits like all the very typical action movie plot points.
Right.
Where it's like, all right, we have a guy who's not really super involved in this sort of like espionage world, but because of some unique skill he's the best at, he gets dragged into it, and then all of a sudden he's like kicking Samuel L. Jackson's head in half.
Yeah, I mean, it's the standard arc of like, the everyday man.
Yeah.
Everyday man is, basically all of a sudden super valuable, and they're the ones that save the day. It's about trying, because all the action movies from like fucking 80s and 90s and everything were always about how like some random kid off the street, rides motorcycles or fucking rides a skateboard around, and all of a sudden he can fucking fly an F-16 and go save his dad from an Air Force base in Iraq because, Iron Eagle's the best action movie that ever existed.
Yeah, so, I mean...
Iron Eagle.
Well, then even beyond that, within the squad members, you have, like, very clear caricatures of the typical characters, like, he's the best martial artist in all of Detroit. And all these very larger-than-life.
Well, because everyone plays a part of the team,
Yeah, they all have to come together and have their one snippet in the climax, like their G.I. Joe.
And that's another arc with that, too, is how, like, in the classic action movie, the team like starts to fight within itself and doubt itself, and then they start to fail because they're not a strong unit together and they don't believe in each other.
Then they all fight together and it works. Do you have any thoughts on how it satirizes action movies, Sureyya?
No, not really. I feel like this movie's really hard for me to even try and comment on.
Yeah.
It's so out there.
It's
and
so blatant.
And without us getting into the politics of it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is political, so I'm really happy Marty picked it.
Says the person who picked District 9.
But, you know, there's more to District 9, at least, than fucking Team America.
I just wanted to watch Team America.
We can watch movies without doing a podcast, Marty.
Can we?
Just ask. So then one of the other things that's not, like, super analytical, I guess, is I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the comedy. And specifically asking, is it just the same joke over and over? Like, would this movie be as funny, and could it be executed as well if there weren't so many of the jokes of just, these are puppets, the animation's kind of shitty?
Honestly, I feel like it probably wouldn't hold up, you know, because then it would just be more of a blatant, you know, commentary on U.S. politics.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't, like, just ridiculous in nature.
Yeah.
You know, because then if you took it too seriously, then it's like, okay, yeah, they're mad at America.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know?
But so many of the more visual humor of it is just, he says this very important thing, and then the shot lingers for too long, and he does that weird high knee step out the door.
Yeah, you know, or even the Matt Damon joke, you know. It's like, I know they did that, I think, for themselves more than anything.
Yeah.
But, like, I think it really is the same joke over and over.
But what about fag?
See, I mean, it's the same vein as South Park, you know. It's just like, yeah, I guess I don't really have to explain it too much. Everyone knows.
It's just irreverent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been, within the past year or so, I've been sort of taking a deep dive on South Park, and especially with the newest season. I was interested going back to watch this because, like, especially when South Park started off, it was just, oh, it's funny because it's third graders or whatever saying fuck a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, helping a dude that's genetically modified more asses onto a monkey. But now, especially in, like, the last half of its run, it's just gotten so much more interesting.
It's, like, commentative more.
Yeah, and there's so much more effort put into it, and it's so much more subtle. And I was kind of curious going back to this, where it was towards the earlier days of South Park.
Right.
If any of that would be in there. And I could kind of see it starting, but it wasn't.
Well, it's like once it seemed like they started to get a little bit pissed off.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
More cynical.
It was almost like if you compared this to, like, the Book of Mormon, where you can kind of see the maturity that's occurred over them constantly making the same show over and over.
Yeah.
And then while we were talking about the comedy too, I was wondering if there were any jokes for you guys that didn't completely land. Because I know one of the big ones for me, most of them, probably 99% of them hit for me.
Yeah.
And it was really funny pretty continuously.
And I think that's because they tend to escalate off each other.
Yeah.
Like each one is more funny because they've already made that joke. You know?
The only joke that really, really didn't hit for me was when he has to give, I can't remember the character's name, the boss guy, where he has to give the guy a blowjob.
Strodsworth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strodsworth.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That wasn't really funny to me.
It was so drawn out, and there was nothing visual about it that was funny.
Yeah.
It was like you had the initial joke of him bringing up the blowjob back, and then it just dragged it on. It was like, okay, he gave him a blowjob. And then they were like, all right, training montage.
Yeah, it's like they only did that just so they could make the comment later.
Yeah.
You know? But, I mean, even some of the more, like, classic, the standard jokes in it, you know, like when, they were outside the prison cells, like, we're guards.
Yeah.
We're guards. You know, it's like, I guess I don't really get I feel like there should have been a reference that I'm not understanding.
Yeah.
You know, even though it's probably them just being like, let's just make them stupid.
Yeah, they were probably just on acid or something.
Yeah.
Just wrote that in.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple sections where it's like, it was almost too much, too fast, where I couldn't laugh or care enough.
Yeah. Well, because it almost has the problem of not really ever stopping. Because it's just a constant flow of jokes. Or I feel like in some scenes it was really easy to just kind of get burnt out on it.
Yeah, and like just the pacing for some of them, because some of them in the beginning were really funny.
Yeah.
And then you get to like the middle to like between like half and 3/4 of the movie. That's I feel where the big dead spot was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like they were still trying to make jokes that were intended to be like hilarious, but it just after the first half of it, they just didn't match up to the same quality, I guess.
Yeah.
Where at that point I'm like, well, that other one was fun. Matt Damon was funnier. Like the guards one is just why.
Well, you seem to agree there, sir. Did you have a problem with going into the third act, into the second act, or?
My problem is I don't understand like political jokes all that much, and I feel like there was a good amount of that in this movie.
Okay.
Do you agree?
Oh yeah.
What'd you say?
I mean, a good chunk of them.
I don't follow politics all that much, and like I'm not familiar with like shit between us and them.
Yeah.
Like pre that movie.
Yeah.
Pre this movie.
Well, especially when it came out 15 years ago now, as of today.
And I mean, I still don't follow politics all that much, so and I feel like I'm more of a slapstick kind of person.
Yeah.
I can't do dry or like subtle jokes.
Well, because I noticed the thing too is there was a lot of jokes that they were just killing you.
Yeah.
And we were like looking at each other like.
Yeah. So I mean. Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah,
right?
no,
I think it's a good thing for comedies like this to have that range.
Well, they have jokes that land with different types of people.
Yeah, which is huge. Because if it is just the same style of joke and the same joke over and over, you're going to get bored of it so fast.
Oh, yeah.
And then, how could we get Sureyya to watch Team America World Police? Every single joke is making fun of the Bush administration.
Right. But
either that or terrorists.
Getting back to like the joke pacing and stuff, I feel like that was the big problem near the end of it, is like you kind of get burned out on that sort of humor.
Yeah.
Like it gets to a point when by the end I was just like,
yeah.
I laugh a little bit, but it wasn't like I was dying like at some of the earlier ones,
Well, and especially when you have jokes, when you approach it like this movie where the entire first two acts have no seriousness to them whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And then when you get to the climax, there's no stakes and you don't care.
Yeah.
Because nothing has been serious up to that point. And it's trying to make you be a little invested, but you just don't get there.
Yeah, and I think maybe that might have been a product of it trying to be an action movie satire.
Yeah.
Where they still had to follow that same arc that most classic action movies do, where by the end, that's when there's, the team's in danger or something like this. The plan might go wrong. And in a typical movie, they give it the pacing to be able to work.
Yep.
But, this one, because of its satirical nature, I feel like the plot was still moving in that direction, but you didn't have any of the exposition for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I think a really good example of how you do it right would be Hot Fuzz.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's one of the best action comedies ever made, because there's so much of it where it's just ridiculously funny. Mm-hmm. But by the end of it, you are invested in like all the characters and the narrative and just everything that's actually happening.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that for Shaun of the Dead as well, then?
I haven't seen Shaun of the Dead as recently.
Oh.
I would say yes, but I don't remember as taking Shaun of the Dead as seriously as I did Hot Fuzz.
Shaun of the Dead's going to be the next superhero movie.
It's not a superhero movie. That one I won't let slide. So then, is there any other topics you guys want to discuss about the main movie? Otherwise, I have a sort of a tangential sort of discussion I would like to have about it.
Oh, no, I think I hit all my points.
I really like Kim Jong-il.
He was hilarious. Especially the I'm So Romery song. Which, again, when I was looking into it, I found that was added on super late in development because North Korea caught wind of the movie being made and they tried making the Czech Republic ban it. Because North Korea obviously banned this movie.
Right.
And then the Czech Republic said no. And so then they made that song to make fun of North Korea for like trying to have power when it has nobody.
And no one ever listens to
Yeah, so that's the whole point of that song. Which I love the whole meta commentary of it. Of like having something in the movie making fun of a consequence of the movie that he made before the movie even fucking came out.
You're right. I mean, the thing is like now with Kim Jong Un being in power, I mean, they could make a whole nother spiel on his stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's just like a continuation and an escalation of Kim Jong Il's bullshit.
Yeah.
Can I just say, they really know how to make musical numbers.
Yeah.
They're surprisingly good at music.
I know, right?
For just a couple fucking bros that like to go acid.
It's so weird how good at it they are.
I mean, you even got a full-fledged musical
Yeah.
for it.
The South Park movie, you know?
Yeah, South Park movie's a whole musical too.
I haven't seen the South Park movie, so I did not know that
We
was
should
a
definitely watch the South Park movie.
Yeah.
Have you not heard Uncle Fucker?
No.
Or Kyle's mom's a bitch.
Shut your fucking face, Uncle Fucker.
No.
Oh my
Kyle's
god.
she's the biggest bitch, she's the biggest bitch in the whole world. She's the biggest bitch.
No.
We have to watch the South Park movie.
That could be
It's
for
so
a
good.
musical.
Oh man.
Dibs.
Anyway,
I don't need to call dibs. I go first.
But moving on to Kim Jong Un, I'd imagine
Yeah.
that's a good transition into what you want to talk about.
It is, because you looked at my list.
Uh-huh.
And sorry, I don't know. Sorry, how much do you know about the movie The Interview? It came out in 2014.
We didn't. I wanted to see it, but we didn't.
I saw it.
Oh. That's the one with
Seth Rogen and James Franco.
And they go and interview him, right?
Yeah, and they go and interview Kim Jong-il.
I wanted
Or is
to
it Kim
see
Jong-un?
it,
Kim Jong Un,
Kim Jong-un.
but I never saw it.
because he was related to basketball.
Yes, that's what it is. Instead of movies, he's really into basketball. So I thought it would be interesting to compare Team America's reception to the reception of The Interview. And not even just talking about quality-wise.
Yeah.
Because The Interview was not very well received. And Team America was very well received. And I think it was interesting because both of them completely center around the fact of making fun of North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have Team America, I could not find anything of people complaining about the movie making fun of North Korea at all. There was, there was a lot of stuff of like how it attacked certain actors and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But nothing about its relation to making fun of North Korea. Whereas The Interview was pulled from the release schedule by Sony for fear of North Korea's anger about it.
Well, and I think there's two reasons why The Interview was a lot more poorly received. One being along that, the lines of the dangers of North Korea now compared to in like the 90s and early 2000s,
Yeah.
Back when Kim Jong-il was in power, is because Kim Jong-il, like, he perpetuated a lot of the atrocities, obviously, but he seemed a lot more stable, almost like a politician.
Yeah.
Compared to Kim Jong-un, who seems to be a lot more desperate to try and show the world his authority.
Yeah.
Like to try and prove something, saying like, "Look, I'm not just the kid."
He's very, very Romery.
Yeah, he's very Romery.
Romery.
And and that's the thing. Like, he has been trying to, like, put his foot down and make North Korea the world power that the like dynasty always wanted them to be.
Yeah.
And he's doing that through blatant hollow threats for the most part, and maybe not always hollow threats in some ways.
Yeah.
Which is why Japan has a much stronger concern for North Korea now than they did back in the early 2000s. So I mean, that is one thing, because it's like kind of poking the beast more now than it used to be.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that's interesting to me about it is when you do look at the release schedule for Team America being only 3 years out after 9/11,
Mm-hmm.
I would have expected there to be more of a fear of incurring the wrath of foreign powers like that.
But
When we haven't really had much of a problem as far as confrontation with North Korea yet.
And yet, the thing is, though, is you have to look at the just American populace and say we were not concerned about North Korea at that time. And right after 9/11, it was all about the Middle East. 100%.
Yeah,
They were the bad guys. They're the only ones we have to worry about. North Korea, they're not today's problem.
Yeah.
We can make fun of them all we want. It's just a joke. Whatever. We'll forget about them.
All right.
And Trey Parker and Matt Stone were doing this kind of subtle commentary since the 90s.
Yeah.
Back when like North Korea was a little bit more of a prominent issue in international politics.
Yeah.
But after 9/11, I feel like they got put on the back burner.
Yeah.
But
Sureyya, you've been...
When we're talking about how well it was received, are we talking about how well it was received in the U.S. itself or globally?
I was more talking about in the U.S. specifically, but also not even like critical reception, just sort of cultural, almost anger towards it, because the interview was pulled from distribution by Sony and then later released on Netflix, I think it was, or was it just online?
It was Netflix.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, I was just gonna say I could see this movie being taken rather well, just because it was so soon after 9/11 and America just had so much hate and like big words against like Iraq and the terrorists and all that kind of shit.
yeah.
Well, I feel like people are a lot more exhausted with that sort of thing now.
Yeah,
After
I mean, it's
15.
been like 17 years now.
Yeah. I think one of the other interesting things when I was looking into it, though, was how when the interview did get pulled, there was a lot of support for that decision. And a lot of people coming out and talking about how you can't or you shouldn't make movies making fun of like terrible leaders and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was interesting how there was nothing really brought up about Team America. There's nothing brought up about like The Great Dictator with Charlie Chaplin.
There's also the recent one, the one about Stalin.
The Death of Stalin.
Yeah, there's that one too.
I mean, the other reason I wanted to kind of get at on why I think Team America was a little more well received in an interview is by who was delivering the product. You know,
That too.
I think even if Team America was released today and updated for modern times, I feel like people are much more willing. I mean, they still have their critics, you know, obviously, but people are much more willing to take Matt Stone and Trey Parker's political ideas like to heart than they're gonna take fucking, you know,
Seth
Rogen and James Franco.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like those are the last two people I want being the voice of the people when it comes to international politics. And I think people were looking at them and saying, like, these two immature frat boys are
Who makes stoner movies.
are trying to make a political statement this strong.
Yeah.
You know, when they almost have no right to compared to Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
Yeah, no, definitely.
You know, like, the delivery of it was, I think, the big issue. If Matt Stone and Trey Parker tried to make the interview, I think it would have been a lot different.
Oh, yeah.
Just
definitely.
have them stick to their Pineapple Express.
And they're super bad. I guess moving off of that, then the last thing I wanted to go into just a little bit was the origins for Team America. And I don't know if this will lead to much discussion. I just found it interesting. But so apparently this movie, I think it's pretty obvious that it was at least slightly inspired by Thunderbirds. I don't know if either of you have ever watched Thunderbirds.
I don't know. I feel like
I
I
think
might
I've
have.
heard of them too.
It was an old 80s or 90s television show that were puppets like this, and they were kind of like American Power Rangers sort of thing, where they all had
like Cartoon Network kind of deal.
they might have done an animated
Are you thinking about Thundercats?
reboot.
No.
I'm thinking about Thundercats.
No, I'm pretty sure there was like a Thunderbird like Cartoon Network.
They might have rebooted it
Yeah.
as animated, but originally it was puppets, and each one had like their own specific vehicle, and they'd shoot out of the island and like go fight bad guys.
Yeah, just looking at the, you know, pictures for Thunderbirds, I'm like, yep, I can see it.
Yeah. And so apparently they were watching Thunderbirds and talking about how much they hated it. Because it's bad. It's awful. It's from the 60s. 1960s British television show. And so then while they were watching that, they saw a trailer for The Day After Tomorrow. Oh my god. And they came up with the idea of making a spoof of The Day After Tomorrow with purely puppets and release it the day after in theaters and call it The Day After Tomorrow.
Oh my god.
That would be a shot-for-shot remake for the movie, but with puppets. And they got their producer behind it. I think it was Scott Rudin was the producer, who also helped them on the South Park movie. But obviously there was a lot of legal concerns over doing The Day After Tomorrow. And so it eventually turned into Team America World Police.
That's ridiculous. How do they even go from The Day After Tomorrow to Team America World Police?
I think they just wanted to do something with puppets.
Yeah. Probably.
But it's just like, what was their their train of thought for that. You know?
Politics.
Yeah.
It is, I guess the day after tomorrow is pretty political.
Oh yeah, I mean the day after tomorrow is pretty much just a big global warming commentary.
Yeah.
That's all.
Where's Al Gore? Al Gore wasn't in that movie.
It's totally serial.
Which I think is a big reason why they probably wanted to make fun of it was because
Al Gore was.
well, until recently they were very anti-global warming.
Yeah.
They completely did not believe in it
Trey
whatsoever.
Stone and Matt Parker?
Yeah, until
What?
recently. Until
Yeah, they were wrong.
yeah, they. I mean,
the
there's
fuck?
that's the whole point of in the new South Park season, the 2-part Man Bear Pig episodes, and why the characters are repeatedly apologizing to Al Gore for not believing him, was because they didn't believe him either.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
At least they can own up to their humility, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, good on them. Any closing thoughts then on Team America World Police?
I would like to see another Team America World Police come out today. Just to see what they would comment on this.
Yeah,
time.
honestly, I wouldn't be so interested in the movie as much as the people's reception of the movie.
I would want a TV movie. 45 to 50 minutes long, nice and compressed so you don't get that sort of lull in the middle.
And just joke.
Yeah, you could just get it over a lot faster, keep the pace nice and breakneck fast, cut out the fat. That's how I would like a sequel, at least.
But we all know how sequels usually tend to go.
It is Matt Parker.
True.
Matt Stone and Trey Parker, though.
I mean, they've been managed to make continuous sequels for 20 years.
Yeah,
So,
they've done like one show. A spin-off movie, a movie, and a musical. So I guess then, as we usually do, we can look at the Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic, see if we agree with it, and then give our own ratings. So first, this was made for $30 million and had a gross revenue of $51 million. Not bad.
No,
especially for a comedy, and especially for 2004. 51 million is not very bad.
especially with kind of a creative, I'll say, art style.
Yeah, right?
With like a 2-minute puppet sex scene.
Well, and especially, too, considering that it's also R-rated. So you have a lot of...
Narrators that you can't see.
Yeah, much more limited pool of people that are going to go see a puking puppet. I mean, I guess for comparison, the top 10 movies of 2004, going from number 10 to number 1, were Ocean's 12, Shark Tale, Troy.
Troy was good.
Meet the Fockers,
Okay.
The Day After Tomorrow, The Passion of the Christ, Incredibles, Spider-Man 2, Prisoner of Azkaban, Shrek 2.
There were some big titles in there.
Yeah. I mean, Shrek 2 almost made $1 billion worldwide, which is insane to me because those movies are absolute trash.
I like the first one. The second one I also like.
Oh, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King won the Golden Globes that year. Anyways.
That's because Lord of the Rings is amazing.
So Rotten Tomatoes has this at a 77, Metacritic has a 64, IMDb 7.2. It's roughly 7.5 range.
I think this movie should get like a 7.5 to an 8.
7.5 to an 8?
Yeah.
Marty, what would you give it?
I'd say probably a 7. Because, I mean, there's certain things that I really, really liked about it. But it's not something I'd want to watch again anytime soon. You know, like that lull was a pretty bad lull.
It was a rough lull. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say probably 6 to 7 for me. Because it is really funny. But at the end of the day, it's just a pretty basic puppet action movie comedy.
Yeah.
So it's not like super transcendent or
give us more diversity in the writing, and like the jokes would be good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that does it for this episode then. Today's Cinema Podcast. Sureyya is going to be picking our next superhero movie. That'll be next week. We'll reveal her movie, and then the week after that, we'll pick a new genre because we've done our rotation of 3.
I hope we get noir.
Dude, I call Sin City.
Oh, that's not even a noir movie. It's black and white.
It's totally noir.
I dibs on the Spider-Man noir spin-off movie.
That's not even a thing yet.
I'll make it.
Come on, Nick Cage, get funded.
So if you want to check us out more, you can find us on SoundCloud or iTunes, or we also have our YouTube channel, The Default White Guys, and now we also just got a Default White Guys Instagram page that Sureyya is going to be running. And I'm going to be running the Twitter. So if you want to follow us, you have a couple ways.
Check out the new face of Default White Guys.
It's our dog.
All right. Thanks for watching. See you next week.